The new Rari survived some real shots. You bugging to think subliminals harm me. You sitting down talking about other names. Your interviews corny.
I battled a whole G-Unit Dolo.
Hold on.
All of them.
Hold on, Bleek, hold on.
Wait.
You can put all of them.
You talking about Banks and Yayo?
All of them.
Banks and Yayo.
Song for song.
You better than Banks?
Huh?
You better than Banks?
Banks?
Yeah.
Listen to Banks right now.
When I'm in the gym,
His old music?
Not now.
What he got?
He be dropping.
He got some shit right now?
Don't do that to Banks. You gonna have Banks come up here.
Right now, the New York rap world is buzzing, and Lloyd Banks might be the reason why. The situation kicked off after Memphis Bleek and Jim Jones made some very public, very bold claims about their standing in the game, specifically throwing around names like Lloyd Banks, Maze, and Fabulous as measuring sticks. That kind of talk tends to have a short shelf life if the people being named decide to respond. And it looks like Banks may have done exactly that, just not in the way most people expected. A newly released verse from Banks is already circulating heavily, and listeners are paying close attention to every single line. The track is called Prada in My Polaroid, pulled from Rome Street's album Sock It to My Pocket, released through Nas' Mass Appeal label. Banks shows up on that record, and the moment the verse started making the rounds, the conversation shifted fast.
I was in a new Rari, survived some real shots. You bugging to think subliminals harm me. You sitting down talking about other names. Your interviews corny.
Now, to be clear, nothing has been officially confirmed. Nobody has come out and said, yes, this is a direct shot at Jones or Bleek. But that hasn't stopped people from reading between the lines, and honestly, the timing alone is enough to make anyone raise an eyebrow. When someone fires off bold claims about being better than you, and then a fresh verse from you drops shortly after with bars that feel pointed, people are going to connect those dots whether you confirm it or not. Memphis Bleek had recently made it pretty clear that he carries serious confidence heading into any hypothetical Versus-style matchup conversation.
Yo, get Swiss on the phone. Set that verses up. Listen.
It's gonna get bad.
No, it's not.
It's gonna get bad. Y'all going verse for verse or song for song?
You doing whatever he want to do.
All right. It's gonna be a long
only way he
in the verses, because the only problem who's win at you.
Let me be the
Tony Yayo goes at you all the time.
He don't want no. Yo, listen.
Hold on. This is a good last question.
Listen.
If Tony Yayo,
listen.
Yo, that be disrespectful.
He shouts his name out. It's a fuck.
Never rapped in his life.
Chill.
He's never rapped.
Tony Yayo has an album.
Listen. Me. By myself.
Yes.
Swiss.
He went on record suggesting he could outperform Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks in that kind of setting. That's a statement that was never gonna go unnoticed.
I hope they hearing this. Catch this. I battled a whole G-Unit Dolo.
Hold on.
All of them.
Hold on.
Wait.
You can put all of them.
You talking about Banks and Yayo?
All of them.
Banks and Yayo.
Song for song.
Banks?
So
Memphis
the
Bleek.
verses.
Not in verses. In the verses.
Song for song.
He got it.
I know song for song.
Them. I ain't gonna. Banks is crazy nice. I'm not gonna get in a freestyle battle.
Song for song.
Put both of them niggas up against me, Dolo. What's up?
You know what you just did, right? You explained yourself. That's all I'm saying.
That's cool. What's up?
That's lit though.
Me.
And this camera right
Song for me, Swiss.
Jim Jones, for his part, has spent years planting his flag as one of New York's most confident voices.
I smoke these boots right there.
Oh man.
Let me stop. Them niggas don't even rap like that no more. Me picking on them in the booth right there be like me, bitch, I'd be just what it be. It'd be picking on them and to do, I mean, like, they not ready. They ain't, I mean.
We don't need this for the town, man. We don't need this for the town, man.
I'm I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm just saying, I don't want to be like bullying nobody in the booth and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, but like, for my era, who?
Oh, man.
Never shy about talking his position up in the city's rap hierarchy. So, when Banks, a guy who built his entire reputation on sharp lyricism, precise punchlines, and verses that make you rewind instantly.
I'ma wait.
Aight, Jim's still in the field, bro.
For my era.
Nah, it's some lyrical niggas.
For my era, who? Right now.
Lyrical?
Right now, tell me.
Damn,
I got some recent shit.
Oh, recent shit.
Just, I'm saying, like, what, you gonna keep going on the old shit?
You my man.
I just want to know what we doing. Because we keep going on the old shit, then we can keep going on my old shit. You heard?
Fab got you.
Fab is my bro. I don't even get into that. Fab is one of my favorite rappers.
I ain't
even with Fab, like I'm ready for all battles. He know that. And every time we go in the booth, it's like extra homework for me. Like, damn, this nigga.
You better than Banks?
Huh?
You better than Banks?
Banks?
Yeah.
Listen to Banks right now.
When I'm in the gym.
His old music?
Not now.
What he got?
Shows up on a new track with bars that feel like they're aimed at somebody. People aren't going to just scroll past that. The lyrics are being dissected line by line, and a large portion of listeners are convinced the targets are clear, even without a name being dropped directly.
He be dropping. He
got some shit right now?
Don't do that to Banks. You gonna have Banks come up here.
Y'all listening to his shit, right? I'm just obviously. So I'm asking y'all. Let's stop pointing at him. I'm asking y'all the room. Like, yo, do you like this? He got a new record out right now?
He got a new tape.
His voice changed, Kane. How many drive?
Consistent.
Hold on. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 8 people right now, y'all got the y'all know what he talking about?
I ain't hear Banks.
He dropped like you. That's what's crazy.
Okay. All right. Now, these 8 people, y'all know that I'm about to drop, or y'all know some shit that I just finished dropping? Anything?
Yeah.
We know.
Shit.
What are we talking about then?
That's actually very on brand for Banks. He's never been the type to turn a beef into a press run or drag a conversation across social media for weeks. His style has always been to let the music do the talking. If he's responding, doing it quietly through a feature verse on a label project, rather than calling a press conference about it, is exactly how you'd expect him to move.
He right, but
lyrical.
Or some lyrical shit.
Lyrical shit.
Lyrical what? I'll box him up. You listening to the shit I'm talking about?
I hear you.
How make you feel when you go outside? Make you feel like you want to do crime and do some other shit, right? Like, you dig? That's what music's supposed to do for you, right?
He right.
How many entendres you niggas want to hear before you figure it out? You dig? Like, I don't understand.
Oh, okay.
And then it's a cadence, like,
yeah.
Music's supposed to make you feel a type of way, right?
Yeah.
Emotion. I'm not taking away niggas' skill of rap at all. Be dead nice.
Right.
Cadence is still off. You heard? I'm only laughing because I caught that. I know how to switch my cadence for the kid to feed it to this generation where they understand it the way they understand all the other music. Not so much with the rest. It's still sounding like before the kids was born, and they don't understand that.
The bigger picture here is what this moment means for the conversation around New York rap and legacy. These aren't new artists jockeying for position. These are guys with deep catalogs, long histories, and real stakes in how they're remembered. When someone like Bleek suggests he stacks up favorably against Banks, and Banks potentially fires back through the music, that's not just internet noise. That's a genuine chapter in a much longer story. Lloyd Banks standing next to Rome streets, dropping bars that feel a little too pointed to brush off, that's where this story picks up. And Banks wasn't mincing words about his position either. He talked about battling an entire crew, song for song, one at a time, or all at once. He wasn't flinching. He was putting names on the table and daring anyone to step up. That kind of energy gets people talking, and it got people talking fast. But before we stay locked on Banks, there's another layer to this story that's worth slowing down for. Memphis Bleek recently showed up alongside Jay-Z at the Yankee Stadium shows, performing in front of a massive crowd. That was a genuinely big moment for him, and whenever a moment like that hits, it has a way of pulling old conversations back to the surface. His Rockefeller roots, his legacy, those years he spent standing next to one of the biggest names hip-hop has ever produced. That kind of spotlight naturally brings confidence with it, and Bleek has been leaning into that confidence lately when it comes to how he stacks up against Lloyd Banks. His position is clear. His catalog and his history deserve serious respect, full stop. Banks supporters, though, would push back hard on that. They'd tell you Banks has spent years doing the work, building a reputation as one of New York's sharpest and most consistent pure lyricists, not just someone who rode a wave next to a legend. Then there's Jim Jones, who's been running his own version of this same conversation for a while now. Jones has spoken openly and very confidently about how he believes he measures up against some of the city's heaviest hitters, names like Nas, 50 Cent, and Jadakiss. Whether fans agree with those comparisons or not, Jones has never been shy about throwing his own name into those conversations. He doesn't wait for an invitation. Now, here's where things get interesting. These two separate threads seem to be pulling toward each other. Bleek is talking boldly about Banks. Jones has already made his own competitive claims loud and clear. And right in the middle of all of it, Lloyd Banks appears with Rome Streets and delivers bars that a lot of people think sound a little too well timed to be a coincidence. Of course, a sharp verse doesn't automatically make something a diss record. Rap fans are famous for connecting dots whenever there's already tension in the air. And without Banks directly naming Bleek or Jones, there's definitely room for interpretation. But given everything that's been said recently, people were always going to inspect every single line closely, looking for anything that fits. Jim Jones made his own feelings clear when he got in front of a camera. He said flat out that he won his verse, that the question isn't really about how fans rank him, because he doesn't care about that. He said the correct question is whether he gives one, and the answer is no. Then he pointed to where he's standing right now. As proof of the animal, he's always been in this game, built off performance, built off showing up. And then he flipped it back, asking plainly, have you actually seen him perform? That question hung in the air, unanswered, the kind of moment that doesn't need a clean resolution to hit hard. Sometimes the energy says everything the words didn't get to finish. If Banks ever decided to fire back, he'd likely lean into the one area where he's always been the most untouchable, and that's standing in front of a mic and letting the music speak for itself. The bars have always done the talking for him, and that's exactly why this conversation keeps finding its way back to his name. Now, dropping Tony Yayo into the mix is one thing, because Memphis Bleek can actually build a real case when you put their solo catalogs side by side. Bleek dropped multiple projects during his Rockefeller run, and more than a few of those records move serious numbers commercially. Yayo's solo output is noticeably thinner by comparison, but that doesn't mean he's walking in empty-handed. He's got recognizable records, a deep well of G-Unit history, and a fan base that remembers exactly what he brought to the table. The Yayo matchup is debatable, but it stays in a reasonable lane. Bleek has enough material and enough of a catalog to keep that conversation alive and genuinely competitive. Neither side is a walkover, and that's what makes it interesting to talk about. Everything shifts the moment you bring Lloyd Banks into the equation. Banks isn't working with one respected album and a handful of singles people half remember. His reputation was built on hunger, consistency, and the kind of output that stretched way beyond the studio. Mixtapes, freestyles, features, G-Unit collaborations, all of that stacked on top of each other over years and built a body of work that's hard to argue against. One commentator broke it down in a way that actually cuts to the point pretty clearly. The Lloyd Banks versus Jim Jones angle made sense to them, but they felt like Memphis Bleek going head-to-head with Banks wasn't really the right fit. Their thinking was that Beanie Sigel was the more natural opponent for Bleek, someone operating in a similar weight class with comparable catalog depth. They pointed out that Banks and Jim Jones made more sense as a matchup, especially after Jones dropped Ballin', and 50 Cent acknowledged the record had something to it. Jones was even in the basement freestyling with G-Unit at one point, which made the Dipset and G-Unit tension feel a little complicated, like the lines were blurred before they ever officially crossed. That's exactly where things get tricky for Bleek in a hypothetical Versus scenario. A battle like that isn't settled by who released more albums or who moved more units. When the rounds start, what matters is what you can actually pull out, and when you pull it. Song selection becomes a weapon, features count, mixtape records count, group records absolutely count. And knowing the exact moment to drop a certain record, reading the room and timing your shots, that alone can shift the energy of the entire event. We've already seen that strategy play out in real time with Jadakiss. When the Locks went up against Dipset and Jim Jones was holding it down on the Dipset side, Jadakiss became one of the most talked about moments of the whole night. And it wasn't just because he had famous records in his back pocket. His timing was sharp, his confidence was on full display, and his ability to draw from multiple phases of his career made the difference for a lot of people watching. When Jadakiss pulled from his solo work, his group catalog, his features, and his mixtape era all in the same session, it created a kind of depth that pure album tallies just can't capture. Viewers who watched closely saw that range in real time, and it swung the conversation firmly in his direction. What makes all of this even more layered is that Jadakiss had already crossed paths with Fabulous in a separate Versus battle before any of this. That history doesn't disappear. It adds context to every discussion happening right now, especially since Fab and Jim Jones have stayed visible together, publicly, including through their podcast conversations where they've been pretty candid about where they stand on the current rap landscape. And Fab wasn't exactly holding back on those podcasts. At one point, he broke down exactly how he sees himself relative to his peers today, saying rappers from his era simply aren't operating at the level they used to. They don't even rap like that no more, he said, describing what it would feel like to go up against them in the booth. That would be just what it'd be. It'd be picking on them. He wasn't trying to be cruel about it, he made that clear. I don't want to be like bullying nobody in the booth, he said. It's hard. But when pressed to name someone from his era who was still bringing it lyrically right now, he paused. He thought about it. The silence said almost as much as anything that came next. Someone in the conversation pushed back, pointing out that he couldn't just keep leaning on legacy if he was going to make that argument. If we keep going on the old, then we can keep going on my old, Fab responded. And then came the acknowledgement that probably surprised nobody who has watched this space closely. Fab got you. Simple, direct, and it landed. What Jadakiss showed in those battles is exactly why measuring these Versus matchups purely by album numbers tends to miss the point. Jada could open with something from his solo catalog, shift into a Locks record, pivot to a major feature, and then reach back into his mixtape years, all within the same run. That kind of range gives an artist multiple different angles, depending on what direction the other side pushes. Preparation played a huge role in that too. Jadakiss didn't look like someone randomly hoping records would connect. He and his DJ came in with transitions and responses that felt thought out, like they had walked through different scenarios beforehand and had answers ready for each one. If the opponent pushed in one direction, Jada had something waiting to counter that energy. It wasn't just confidence, it was structure. That's exactly why Lloyd Banks becomes such a serious threat in any hypothetical matchup discussion. If Memphis Bleek is approaching this strictly through the lens of solo albums, he's only accounting for a fraction of what Banks could actually bring to the table. Banks has his solo records, his G-Unit material, a long list of collaborations and features, and a mixtape catalog that serious rap fans still bring up when talking about his best work. That body of material covers a lot of ground, and that's before even thinking about how those records might translate in a live setting in front of a crowd. Fabulous made his own feelings on matchups pretty clear too. Fab is my boy, he said when the topic came up directly. Fab is one of my favorite rappers, but he didn't flinch when it came to the battle side of things. It's just, I'm ready for all battles. That confidence, coming from someone who has been open about how he views the current state of his peers, makes the conversation around any future matchup involving him that much more worth paying attention to. He knows that. And every time they step into the booth together, it feels like extra credit he didn't ask for. Like the bar just got raised without warning. The conversation shifts. Someone asks if he's better than Lloyd Banks right now. Banks? When's the last time anyone in that room actually sat down and listened to Banks? Not old records from 315, not throwback material from the gym playlist. What has he put out recently? He's been dropping, he's got something out right now. Don't dismiss it. The room is paying attention whether they admit it or not. 7, 8 people in that space, and most of them already know what's coming. They knew about the drop before it was mentioned. So, what exactly are we debating here? Because when the room already knows your catalog, that's not nothing. That's recognition. And recognition matters in these conversations. Here's the thing though, a song that looks stronger on paper doesn't always win the room. It's never that simple. Sometimes it's the opening 2 seconds of a record that locks everyone in. Sometimes it's one famous verse, one perfect response to what was just played, that creates the biggest moment of the night. Memphis Bleek absolutely deserves credit for having a deeper catalog than a lot of people give him. He earned that, but the second Lloyd Banks gets added to the equation, this stops being a clean album for album comparison, and Bleek's position becomes a whole lot harder to hold. When Banks is allowed to reach into everything connected to his career, you're not just dealing with a handful of solo singles. You're talking about the hunger for more. You're talking about years of mixtape output that G-Unit loyalists have memorized front to back. You're talking about Beg for Mercy, TOS, collaborative records with 50 Cent, major features across the era, freestyles that circulated for years, and a stack of records that anyone who grew up riding with G-Unit would recognize within the first 4 bars. That's not a shallow well. That's a catalog you could pull from in 20 different directions and still not run dry. And in a Versus style setting, that kind of depth doesn't just help, it can completely flip the matchup. The crowd response, the energy in the room, the way people react when they hear something they grew up with, all of that feeds into who wins the moment, not just who has the technically stronger record sitting in front of them. And that emotional pull is exactly what gets brought up next. How does the music make you feel when you walk outside? Does it make you feel something real, something that hits different when you're moving through the world? Because that's what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to create a feeling. It's supposed to move you somewhere. How many times do you have to hear it before that registers? Skill is not being dismissed here. Bleek can rap. That's not up for debate, and nobody in that room is pretending otherwise. But cadence is its own conversation. Skill and cadence aren't the same thing. And when one of them is off, you can feel it even if you can't always name it. The room feels it. The laughter that follows isn't mean-spirited. It's genuine, because someone caught it in real time and couldn't hold it in. Lloyd Banks himself said it best. He knows how to shift his delivery to reach the younger generation on their own terms, speaking to them the way they already absorb music. That kind of adaptability isn't just a lyrical trait, it's a battle weapon. Now, if the rules got tightened strictly to commercial singles from solo albums, Memphis Bleek could make this contest a lot closer than people expect. Bleek had real visibility during the Rockefeller era, and being tied to that whole movement gave him records that still pull people back to a very specific moment in New York hip-hop. His catalog doesn't deserve to get dismissed just because Lloyd Banks carries such a heavy reputation as a pure lyricist. But here's the thing we've already established: commercial success alone doesn't settle these battles. We saw exactly that play out when Fabulous walked into his matchup with Jadakiss carrying a long list of mainstream records, recognizable collabs, and songs that had serious radio runs. On paper, that looked like a massive edge. Then the actual battle got underway, and Jadakiss showed that strategy and selection could matter just as much as chart history. He hit the right moments with the right records. He pulled from different corners of his catalog instead of leaning on one type of song, and that flexibility kept the momentum moving in his favor. That exact logic is what makes Banks so potentially dangerous against Bleek. Banks wouldn't need 20 giant radio smashes to win this thing. He'd need 20 records and verses that connect with the crowd at the exact right time. One round could pull from his solo work. The next could tap into the full G-Unit run. Then he pivots to a hard mixtape cut or a feature verse that nobody saw coming. That unpredictability alone is enough to make it incredibly difficult for Bleek to ever really control the energy in the room. And then Benz and Bentley enters the conversation, and everything shifts. At that moment in time, those were the two hottest groups moving in hip-hop. You had the LOX versus Dipset, which is iconic in its own right, but honestly the matchup that really reflected the era would have been Dipset versus G-Unit. Those were the two units running things at the same time. G-Unit was rising hard and cutting directly into the space Dipset had built. When Lloyd Banks came through with Benz and Bentley alongside Dipset, it sent a clear message that Banks could move across scenes and network with the other top crew without losing anything in the process. That record didn't just sound good, it said something about his range and his positioning. Tony Yayo is another name that deserves a closer look. His solo catalog isn't nearly as deep, so Bleek would hold a visible advantage in a straight solo-only format. But the moment the rules open up to allow either fighter to pull from the broader G-Unit catalog, even that matchup gets more layered and complicated than a simple album-to-album comparison would suggest. And then there's Jim Jones, whose confidence has pushed this entire conversation somewhere even more interesting. Jones hasn't been quiet about his belief that he can compete with some serious names, and that alone is worth digging into. But after watching what went down when Dipset stepped to the locks, fans can't help but wonder how that same energy would hold up against someone like Lloyd Banks, Maze, or Jadakiss in a completely different battle setting. Would the results look the same, or would the outcome flip entirely? That's really where this whole conversation splits into multiple directions. Is Memphis Bleek being slept on because people genuinely forget how deep his catalog actually runs? Or is Lloyd Banks just working with an unfair advantage once you factor in everything he's dropped across his entire career? And when it comes to Jim Jones, the question gets even more interesting. Which New York rapper is actually built to give him the hardest matchup? Is it someone with lyrical range, battle experience, or raw street credibility that tips the scale? These aren't easy calls, and that's exactly what makes this debate worth having. Drop your pick in the comments and break down your reasoning, because a one-word answer isn't going to cut it here. We want the full argument. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button and share it with somebody who loves hip-hop as much as you do. Subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown, and go ahead and check out the video on your screen right now, because there's a whole lot more where this came from. See you in the next one.